Hi, I have some Wall Street friends who are quants. That is, they invest based on numbers only. I, on the other hand, am a sleuth investor. Sure, I aim to know all the fundamental numbers, but some corporate information cannot be expressed in numbers or even in words and should be sleuthed physically. My quant friends tell me this is nonsense. How can it be information if you cannot put it down on paper or on a screen? Well, the following clip is for the quants and for the scientists among you. Engineers, mathematicians, physicists, or anyone else who studied science. It will prove that there is information that the rational, scientific part of your brain is blind to. I will show this via two topics. First, one I had mentioned before, neural networks. The second, brain science. In both I'll quote eminent scientists, and you are welcome to review their work. Let's start with neural networks and Professor Naftali Tishby. His specialty is figuring out how neural networks learn. I told you before that in the 1990s, I used neural nets to try and forecast the market. So to repeat, what is a neural net? It is a mathematical program that takes in real data in one end and compares it to actual results in the other, then figures out how the first can forecast the second. But how does the learning or categorizing actually work? Professor Tishby found out that there are 4 stages to the neural net learnings. First stage is taking in all the unstructured data. The second stage is dividing the data into categories and calling the categories names. The third stage is putting each of the data point into a category in a method called descending gradient. But the fourth stage is the important one, because during the previous stage, the categorizing, the net finds that many data items do not fit into any category. These the net discards and forgets about them. What Tishby research found is that this stage of forgetting what cannot be categorized is a key stage in learning. In other words, without selective forgetting of the uncategorized, there is no learning. Now, how does all this relate to your brain trying to pick stocks? For this, we must go first to the US brain scientist Jeff Hawkins. In his book On Intelligence, Hawkins demonstrates that like a neural net, the brain is also a forecasting machine. The cortex, which is the outer layer of the brain, has 6 layers. And in no matter which of the 5 centers, the brain always operates the same way. It takes in data, categorizes via the cortex, and forecasts what comes next in everything you do. And I mean in everything. For example, when you skip down the stairs, as your foot comes down, your brain already expects a certain pressure and a certain distance of the ground level and a certain timing. But if the sensation coming back is different than the expectation, for example, a step that isn't there anymore, or a stone that presses on your shoe, your body reacts fast before you even notice it consciously. Your body freezes, you grab hold onto the guardrail, and only then you look down. In other words, like a neural network, your brain also categorized input, but on an ongoing basis and compares them to expected categories. But like the neural net, some things your brain cannot categorize either. And yet your brain has a way of dealing with this too. There is the limbic system, which is the chemical soup mostly responsible for your emotions, much of which has to do with hormones which react differently than the brain does. But is your brain really just a neural net swimming in a chemical soup? No, not really. But in the specific aspect of categorizing, it mostly is. And this is what the last scientist I'm going to refer to, Kahneman and Tversky, found, as they mentioned in their book, Thinking Fast and Slow. Terrific book, you should read it. In the research, Kahneman and Tversky found that the right side of your brain takes in the unstructured data and reacts with emotions and instinct. That's your fast thinking, and it is only about 80% accurate, since it operates on the raw data, not its categories. How does it do that? Like this. The raw data that went into the right side of the brain, the creative, emotional side, because it is unstructured, you cannot apply logic to it. However, the raw data then goes into your brain left side, and there it undergoes a process of categorization, similar to Tishby's second step in a neural net. There, your brain's left side takes the right side sight and sound and smells and touches, divides them into category, and puts labels on them. And to these labels, the left side can attach names. Or, if it is a physicist or a mathematician's brain, it can represent them in variables or symbols and apply logical or math to them. Then come to conclusions, which can also be put into words. But what is very important to understand is that this left brain reasoning is not applied to the original sensory data, but to the names of the categories that the brain has put them into. Or as Humpty Dumpty had said, not the song itself, but the name of the song. Finally, just like the forgetting by a neural net, during the process of giving the raw input names, your brain too discards some real-world data it could not categorize and call name. So when your left brain uses logic and reasoning, as you had been taught in school, it remains blind to some part of real-world reality that has been discarded in the process of categorization. So if you are a quant investor, that's the part of a company that your brain never has access to. But, and this is key, these parts are still accessible to the right side of your brain, often called the lizard brain, the side that thinks emotionally or intuitively. This part does not use formal reason or logic, or even numbers or words, but accesses the direct memory of actual experiences, images, smells, touches, taste, what they felt like in the limbic soup, and then compares them to your current physical experience, not the labels the left side had put on them, but the experience themselves. Like what kind of experience? Like what makes a soldier stop when the jungle has become just a little bit too quiet, or the smell of the swamp had acquired another layer, perhaps human sweat? Or like what makes the policeman reach for his gun when the cheek of the man facing him twitches in a way that reminds the cop's lizard brain of another such man a year ago and what happened then? Or what makes an investor sit up and take notice when the he or she interviews look her in the eye and says, "Trust me," and something in his expression and manner reminds her of what the CEO of Enron had once told her, or how her ex-husband spoke when he said he'll have to work late. No labels, no words, no numbers, just memories, emotions, a feeling that forecast directly from the gut level, still using your brain, but the right side of it, the part that few people use, certainly not quants. If you know how to allow this raw emotion in and train your brain to pay attention to it, you have a great advantage for all those who only operate based on blips on screen and ink on paper and computers, those whose money you want to take. Of course, you must still know all the financial filings and the company's product and its customers. This will be information for the left side of your brain, which acts on labels and analyzes categories, as you have been taught in school. But you must give the right side of your brain the chance to absorb also the raw physical side of the company's life, the part school rarely teaches you about, like the graffiti that miners scribble on the mine's wall once you visit, the graffiti that says crudely what they really think about management, the kind of things Bay Street and Wall Street analysts will never repeat in the reports, or like watching the nasty behavior or the disdain that the CEO treats people around him, or like seeing the CFO roll her eyes when the CEO's son, who is VP of marketing, says the future will be good, or seeing how all the rest of the executives shake their heads in disgust, or the fact that the company's visitors' parking lot, always full of customers' cars, is for the last few months strangely empty. None of these physical facts is in the filings, nor in the internet, not in the Quants databases. How many investors do you think pay attention to them? Certainly not the Quants. If you want to take their money, you better start paying attention to such physical facts by letting your lizard brains loose on what has not yet been categorized, which is also why a neural net, in my opinion, can never be as good as people in investment. It simply has no lizard brain. You do. Use it. That's all for today. Please let me know what you think of the above in a comment below. Subscribe to the channel, and if you like it, tell all your friends so they subscribe too. I'll see you next time, and meantime, thank you very much for watching.